Hey everyone, welcome back to another video tutorial on web page design, and for this video tutorial we will be focusing on creating tables in our HTML document. Now a table, as we would have observed throughout our life, is consisted of rows and columns, rows that runs horizontally from left to right and columns which runs vertically from top to bottom. Now in this table example we currently have 3 rows, so the first is here, second and the third, and the 2 columns 1, 2. Now for our HTML document we will be looking at some tags that will allow us to present a table of similar nature as this. Well, the same table that we will be replicating in code. Now we will look at a snippet that we prepared ahead of time, and then we will move on to complete this in our text editor. Now our first row contains our heading student name and student grades. Our second row contains the name Mary and 85%, and our third row contains the name Bill and 90%. Now we are now going to look at the code. For this snippet we will be only focusing on the table tags and the related tags that will be used in the table aspect, as we are not really placing emphasis on the HTML, the header or the body, until we move on to the text editor. Now as you can see, we have an open table tag and a closing table tag, and this represents or indicate that we will be completing or preparing a table based on information given. Now within our table tag we have TR, which stands for table row, and our table row we will see appearing 3 times, and each of these aspects we will see an opening table row tag and a closing table row tag. Now for the information that we will produce in each row represent the rows that we previously looked at, but we will look at them in between the explanation. Now the first row consists of our table headings, and it gives the order based on how we saw them in the table before. So TH represents table header or table heading, and the first table heading is student name, the second one is student grade, and as you are able to observe, each of our opening tags also match back with a closing tag. So the first table row contains our heading, and again we will just look at what this or these lines of row are really representing. So in our table we see student name, student grades, and that was what the first set of code projected. Now moving on to the second line of code, we will see information regarding Mary and her grade. So second row, again we begin with our open table row tag and our closing tag, and within the row tag we have TD. Now you must be wondering, why am I saying TD and not TC? For the case and rules of HTML, instead of saying table column, we refer to a table column as a table definition. In other words, it's defining what can be found in each of the column, each of the row pertaining to the column information. Now in this second table row we are able to see the first table definition. Again, table definition replaces table column. The first one is Mary, and the second information in this is her 85%. Again, this is our second row, so we can just go back to see Mary 85%, and our last row information will be focusing on Bill and his 90% grade. So again, we are able to see a cycle is also repeating, where we have our table row open and close tag, and within that table row we have our table definition, which the first information was Bill and the second information his test grade. And once that has been completed, we want to double check that for each open tag we have the close tag so that there will not be any error in our code. So now we want to move over to our text editor just to repeat that code that was observed. So from our last tutorial, I have removed our heading information and the paragraph information and all of those, and in the body we want to assume our table tags. So again, the first tag is our open tag, which is table. And I am going to put my table tag somewhere on line 17, so the closing tag for table. Now once that has been completed, the first thing that we want to identify was the table headers, which were student name and grades, and these can be found in our first row. So they start off with TR, which represents table row, and I am just going to add some space so that our table column / definition can be placed within this first row. So this is closing table row, and in this now we have our first TH table heading, and it was student name, and then we can close our table heading. And then our second table heading was student grade, and then we can close that table heading. Now if we want to see how this information will appear, we just select our Save tab and then move to our browser and we can refresh. And as you can see, currently there is no border because we did not indicate that our table should have a border. So we move back to our code, and then in the table heading right here we are going to put the heading as it says border, and in this case we want a border appear in as 1 as the pixel. Now again, this is denoted in double quotation as it is a string, and so I go ahead and save and back to my browser. So I refresh, and currently we are now able to see that the student name and the grade headings are currently within a border. So we move back to our code, and then this suggests that our first row has been completed. So again, we go ahead and create a second row, and in this second row we will have our first student, or which was Mary, but before we put the student name or grade, we have to put that in our tag known as TD, which is table definition, to replace table column. So this is Mary, and I close the table definition, and then the second information that was in that row was the grade for Mary, which was 85%. So I close this table definition, and again I did have my open tag and I closed just so that I remember, and then within this I have the information for the second row. Again, I will save this information, I will go back to my browser and I refresh that information. Thirdly, we want to add our final row information. So again, we start with our table row open tag and we make some space to apply our closing tag, and then within this row tag we will place the table definition to indicate that we are putting in the student bill, and then we close that. We move on to the next line to indicate the student grade, which for bill it was 90%, and then we can close that table definition. Now this information I will now go ahead and save, and then we take a final look in our browser and we refresh, and then this is the table that was previously projected here. Now for this, as you can observe, the table is looking a little bit small. However, we can make adjustments to make the table width a little bit wider than the current size there, and the width is placed again within the tag, open tag for table, where we put border. We can just place our cursor at the end, and then we can say width equal, and probably our pixel can be 100 px. Save that. I'm not sure what size it will look like, so I'm just gonna refresh. Okay, so that just brought it down. Let's try 100% instead of pixel. Again, we save and we refresh. So as you can see, this table now takes up the full space of our web page. I don't want it so big, so I'll just decrease it to probably 50%, and that is the last change that I am making to the width. Again, I refresh, and then you can see that the table is now a little bit bigger than the original size, but less than the 100%. So basically, this is one way to create a table in our HTML document. And oh, I was just looking at the percent right here. I just realized that, okay, so it's correct. Thought it was supposed to be center, but that is basically one quick way to create a simple table in our HTML document. I do hope that you did enjoy and learn from this video tutorial, and we hope to see you in our next video tutorials to come. Have a great day.